Greetings and welcome to Story Time. This one is called My First Stalker in Atlanta, Georgia. Okay, so I'll tell this story before I go to bed because I'm all ready for bed. When I first got here, I, of course, not having a car, I wasn't able to do a lot of different things and go a lot of places, so a lot of stuff was limited for me. And just so happened that this brother that I dated in Cali had moved here, and he lived in McDonough. So I was there for 3 days at his house in McDonough, and he was taking me various places and things of that nature. And so eventually I had found an apartment. It was a studio. And I'm just amazed because I'm from the West Coast, and dishwasher, refrigerator, and a stove, like that's amenities in Cali. Like if you're from the West Coast, stuff like that's like amenities. And so anyways, and it's 5:25, and I'm like, wow. First and foremost, I don't have a car, so I'm not able to drive in the neighborhood, and I'm not able to check the neighborhood out at various times and things like that. So that extremely limited me. All I was able to do was go take a look at the apartment itself that one time, and the guy that I dated took me to do that. It was clean, so I'm like, okay, I looked in the apartment, everything's fine, this is what I needed as a startup for me. 525 utilities included. I'm like, oh, this is living. And the funny thing about this journey is that I moved out here on unemployment from California. I had a little money saved up, but I was still getting my unemployment checks. It was only I believe $300 to move in. That was just absolutely amazing. No, $99. It was $100 special. That was absolutely just amazing. And with all the admin fees, I think I paid maybe almost $200. So that was just crazy for me. And now this is in May of 2006. Okay. So, when you first get somewhere, you're always asking people questions. You're getting your way around. I'm learning their subway or their transportation or MARTA system, and I don't have a computer, I don't have a TV, I don't have anything. I just wanted to make a new move. I wanted to be fresh. I wanted all new furniture. I just wanted to start all over fresh. So the only thing that I had brought with me to Atlanta, Georgia was just a box radio, like the CD, and AM, FM, and my pillows, and I love clothes, shoes, and hats, and all of that. And I've shipped all of my blankets and majority of my stuff and majority of my clothes in this box CD player, like what you would give to a student to have in their dorm. That's basically what I had. So, getting there, my daughter came a day late, so we're getting settled and we're looking for a job. And of course, I have income coming in, my unemployment, so we're getting by, things like that. So, I must admit, now I'm not going to I don't know the actual time of when I met the guy, or I seen him a few times coming out of the complex. So walking around, and when we got here, when we moved here, it was hot. It's a hot, we haven't experienced in California, that kind of hot. So we're out here and we're suffering. We don't have a car, so we're on public transportation and, waiting for buses and getting schedules and all that kind of stuff here so we can get acclimated to the city. So this guy, he has a nice body, I will admit, was short. I'm not normally attracted to short guys, but he's a short guy, and nice body, beautiful smile, full lips, and he was bald, and he had a clean face. So when I would see him, he would always smile, and he'd wave or what have you, and he would never have a shirt on me. And so I get it. I seen that, where we lived. I seen that, more men walking around or young boys with no shirt on. I didn't move to the top echelon of the echelon. I just wanted to get out of California. There was a whole lot going on there. I was over it. I was tired. So I was just like the first thing smoking here. So unlike a lot of people who move their families or move themselves and they were able to move into nicer areas, came out here with like $9,000-$10,000 or their job moved them or they had a job waiting, that was not me. I just totally came to Atlanta just walking by faith, and it did work out. So I would speak to the guy. Then eventually we ended up in close proximity, meaning that there was a young girl that lived downstairs underneath me in one of the studios, and he was actually over to her house one day. And so she introduced me. Of course, I will not repeat his name. She introduced me to him. And so, we're smiling, he's flirting, and his energy is just like really, really, really strong. Like his flirtation, his smile, like all of this energy is like, ugh. So we're speaking, we're talking, that kind of thing, and he's flirting, and no numbers are exchanged. Then I see him another time, and we have a conversation, no numbers exchanged. And then I started noticing, like, he started watching, I guess, the time that I would come home, and just suddenly he would appear. And we would talk for a minute or what have you. This went off and on for maybe like about 2 or 3 weeks or so. And then when we had a real conversation, I never seen him in a car. I never seen him in a car. So we were having a conversation, and he was telling me where he lived. And I was like, that's not the word I want to use, but this man lived in the woods, or that's what I would call it, the woods, even though this wasn't I wasn't like in the country, I was in the metropolitan area, but there's like all of these, certain divisions, like subdivisions or things. If you've ever been to Atlanta or any city outside of the suburbs of Atlanta, there's always like where it feels like a forest. Well, for me it is. It feels like a forest. So it was a forest or a mini forest from where we lived, going to like the gas station and some other little stores. So I said, you live in the woods? Like, who lives in the woods? And he was like, yeah. And then he started telling me he was bipolar. And I was like, oh, wow. So, and then he was telling me, and within telling me that he was bipolar, he was telling me that all of the medications and the hospitals he had went to and all of that. And I'm like, oh, when I tell you a good-looking guy, like a good-looking guy, and he was flooding me with all of this information. He says, I see you every time you come home. I'm like, really? Now, I wasn't petrified when he says how when he sees me. I was more I was stuck on, he lived in the woods or the mini forest or the mini woods or whatever you want to call it. He lived in that. And like backpack, like the whole nine, like homeless shelter. And I was amazed by that, like simply amazed. And then all of the times when he's telling me the story, how he, the jobs that he's had, he was a very sharp and intelligent guy. Like he was extremely articulate. Like this was like no idiot is what I'm saying. None whatsoever, or else he wouldn't have caught my attention. And like the few first times that we had conversation was just about random stuff. So he really just broke down and opened, like, I guess if I have a chance, if I'm gonna get a chance, I need to be real with her. Like, I can't take you to my house, I can't take you nowhere, I don't have a job, up in here, I messed up, and in my soul, I messed up, and in my spirit, I messed up, and that's how he was breaking it down to me, and I was like, well, to God be the glory, and I'm glad that you told me, because what you did was you gave me a choice, because I would have never, ever assumed that this man was living in the woods, the forest, the mini forest, the, you know what I'm saying, Tony the Tiger forest, like he's fighting off lions and tigers and bears, oh my, type forest for me, because I don't know what type of insects, or, you know, I'm sure it's squirrels everywhere in Georgia, so you could be in the city of the city and see squirrels, and like, I don't know what's going on with, like, he never smelled. He was, you know, dressed, like I said, we walk around with his shirt off, and I think mostly to get the girls or whatever, to have women looking at him, that kind of thing, because he's very arrogant, he was very cocky, very self-assured, and that was something, the energy he had given out to me when I had first met him and talked to him, like very assured of himself. And then he says how he's been on different drugs from doctors, he doesn't like how it feels, and, you know, he's medicated himself through drinking, then that wasn't too bad, and he had to stop that. He said this is the only thing that makes him feel right, and I'm like, it was a lot of intake. Well, of course, you know, they changed up the game for me. So there was no way that you're telling me that, you know, you living in the woods and that this is where you feel free, and, you know, you don't, nothing's going on. There's nothing going on here either. So, you know, with him telling that, he pulled back himself because he saw the look of behoovement and bewilderment on my face, not as jokingly saying like, oh my gosh, you're bipolar. No, because you know who you are, you know what's going on with you, and you're explaining this illness that you have, and all of the different things that you've gone through this illness, and a lot of different things. I mean, this is over various conversations, you know, with the bipolar, when he would catch me, and I felt like talking, you know, it wasn't like he was knocking on my door, but I felt like talking. Pause. Eventually it did lead him to knocking on my door and seeing if I was home, and I never let him in my house. I would always come outside of my door, and we would sit on the steps, and we would talk. So it was like, you know, I'm not letting no bipolar dude then, you know, come into my house, because I don't know what's going on with you, you know, and then plus you out living in the woods, and still again, I never smelled the guy. The guy was never dressed like a bum. You know, so I don't know what his hookup was. Maybe he had hookups in the building, and because that's why I always would see him. Sometimes I would like hurry up and walk, like, let me hurry up so this man, see me, and let me get to, you know, my house real quick, to the crib real quick, so that I can, you know, avoid him saying, hey, Toy, and all that in a conversation, you know. So, later on, before I go there, later on, down the way, and all of this happened in a very short amount of time, so I'm just trying to give you the backstory or the backdrop. It's not like this was like months and months or anything like that. I would hear him just like arguing with people, and, you know, ready to fight, like I think it's at this like maybe about 2 or 3 times, and that really made me like leery and stay away from him. And then with me seeing him do that, you know, he realized or knew what he was doing, so he really didn't want to come around me, and the look of disgust on my face, like, you know, really, you're going to do that in front of here and pick on people, because I didn't stay in I didn't stay in a nice area when I first got here, but that changes. That's another story. So anyways, we started to create a distance, you know, and again, I started seeing him pop up various times around, you know, my complex in the front, because the studios were in the front, the extreme front of the complex. And the more we started talking, the more he was starting to talk about his spirituality and how he wanted to get himself together, and he had a calling on his life, and this, that, and the third. And I'm like, okay. And this was the last conversation that we had. He was in depth. He broke down crying. He was like, I really need help. Will you help me? And I said, well, what is it that you want me to do? And he was like, I just need someone to have my back. And I'm like, well, to me, that sounds like relationship requirements. But, what I can do is I can assist and find various places that you can go to, or, like, I don't know, do they have a 5150 or something? And I don't mean that in a jokingly way, but do they have a 5150 out here where you can check yourself in? And can you go get help? Can you get medication or anything like that? Like, what is it that I can do for you? Later on that day, he contacted, because we had this conversation like mid-morning, afternoon. So later on in the evening, he knocks on my door, and of course I'm there, and his sister and his mother are there. And I'm like, he's like, come downstairs. My family's down here. And I'm like, okay. Your family's here? Like, why is your family here to see me? Like, what's going on? So I come downstairs, and the sister and the mom were saying, oh, he's talked about you all the time. Me? Talked about me all the time? Okay. So I'm like, oh, that's really nice. Like, okay. She's like, they're like, how, you want to help him, and what we need to do is give you some information on his medication and his doctors, and like, you're the first woman in a long time who said they want to be there for him. Like, he has deep feelings for you. Deep feelings for me? Wow. Deep feelings. Wow. I don't really know your brother or your son like that. I just offer like while I'm out and about, like, are there organizations that I can contact? Do you want me to go with you? That kind of thing. Like, I was open to sit if you, support, but nothing in regards to I am taking over guardianship of his illness, and now I want his check, and no. Not that. So I explained, and they were like, oh my gosh, we're so embarrassed. And this, he had stepped away. So then, coming home from work, because I did have a job, coming home from work, this guy would be now sitting on the steps, waiting for me. And he did that twice. And then the last time was when, I was being stalked, I was being watched all the time. Like, he was waiting for me. He would tell me when he would see me. He would tell me what I had on, like, the next time he see me, like, for days. And the one time that took me to the extreme was when I went out, I think it was a Wednesday wind down, and I went out on a date afterwards. And when I got home, he was leaning up against my wall. He had gotten a chair and leaned next to my front door, and he was asleep. Now, and I had the conversation like, well, I'll tell you what, either you're going to have to think cognitively, and you're going to have to say, you're not coming over here anymore, and you're going to have, or I'm going to call the police and file a report. And I never seen him after that. And by that time, knowing the area that I moved in, like maybe about 3 months after that episode, my daughter and myself, we actually moved into a townhouse. So we were good. It was a huge upgrade from where we were. So that's story time with Toy. Hi, I'm just Toy talking too much. And it was crazy. So I will tune in to you at another story time before we go to bed. Story time, my first stalker in Atlanta. Good night.